So one of the channels, the small YouTube channels that I subscribe to is called I Got Issues, and they just hit 200 subs, which at this point is about twice as many as I have. So congratulations on them. But during the 200 sub video, the Near Mint Nerd, one of the people that work over there, did a little bit where he's describing the first comic that made him a collector and said, hey, let's have a contest. Make a video that describes the first comic book that made you a collector. Now, one of the rules of the contest is that we also subscribe to somebody who's under 100 subs. I chose a YouTuber named Miss Comika. Now, she usually does comic book haul and review videos, picking up only a few issues a week and reviewing them. She does half of her review as a spoiler free, and then after she gets that out of the way, she does a spoiler filled version of the video. Currently, she's sitting at 17 subscribers, and she definitely deserves more. So please go over. I'll leave her link in the description below also. Check it out, subscribe. It costs us nothing to support each other. Let's do that. The next part of the contest was actually more difficult for me because it is, tell us about the comic book that started you off as a collector. And or started you off onto the hobby. That's actually a more difficult question to answer than you would think, because I was born with a comic book in my hand. Obviously not really, because that would definitely have made the papers. However, I don't remember a time when I did not read comics. I remember that my brother was really into the Legion of Superheroes, and he had some giant-size treasury editions of the books. They were just reprints of the old stories. However, I read those and loved them. Oh, they don't even have treasury editions these days anymore, but those were awesome to have as a kid because they were huge magazine-size comic books. And I read them and I enjoyed them, had a great time with it. I even cut this one up and pasted it on the wall. And if you ever want to know how to piss off a family, an entire family, rip up your older brother's comic book and ruin that, and then ruin any chance of getting a deposit back by gluing all the pages to the wall of the apartment because you thought it would be good to have a big poster comic on the wall. Yet even though Wildfire became my favorite superhero, and Pulsar Stargrave, yeah ladies, that Pulsar Stargrave, became my favorite supervillain, I can't really say I became a collector because I didn't really care to get the next issues. I read whatever is available. But when we went to the library, I didn't get anything like Legion of Superheroes. I got books about the Golden Age heroes. Give me a book about the Spectre or the Flash. And my favorite Golden Age hero at the time, Plastic Man. That was just flat out cool. But even as cool as all those Golden Age heroes was, they didn't make me, I couldn't follow a lot of them as a matter of fact, but they didn't make me want to be a collector. When I had my own money, the Harvey comics, the funnies, the Casper, Richie Rich, Little Devil, and you know, they were pretty good, but that didn't make me want to be a collector. I just bought them randomly whenever I could. One time my brother was forced to take me to a comic shop. I had $1 in my hand and I bought Justice League number 153 because my brother and his friends were talking about how comic books were all going to go up in value, and I was absolutely sure that Ultra was going to join Pulsar Stargrave in the Hall of Greatest Villains Ever. And then one day I carried a wagon full of pop bottles to the Stop and Go, and they were having a sale off of the comic books on the rack. And it just so happened to be 10 cents a comic, which was cool because you got 10 cents per bottle. Now there is an activity that kids today have no idea about. I mean, this was a great way for us to get extra income back in the day. And I remember that haul also. Tales of the Green Lantern, X-Men with Moses Magnus, I think it was 119, but the one that stuck with me and I had to go back and get every other issue I could find was Adventure Comics 479, the first issue of the Dial H for Hero return. And of course I didn't know that was what it was. I didn't know it was the first issue. However, it was a lot of fun. These were actual kids. These were teenagers. Now, the X-Men were supposed to be teenagers, but they didn't act that way. These were school kids. So I really liked it. And one of the other things that was really good about this book is that the reader, the kids, could send in submissions for the villains and the heroes. And they would even put the name at the bottom. So when he says, hey, I'm Mega Boy, it would say Mega Boy is created by. And tonight, while I'm making this video, I actually thought, well, wait a second, maybe I can look up one of these people on Facebook, see if they're real. And I did, and I said, hey, are you the guy who created the Red Death, which is a villain coming up in the pages of this issue here? And he says, yes, I am. We had a nice conversation about not only about what happened when somebody got a submission placed in the comic, but by the way, they got a t-shirt, and he said, of course, he wore it until it was rags. And we joked because now with a collector's mindset, he would have framed it, maybe laminated it, you know. I mean, we didn't think about that kind of stuff. We read our comic books. Certainly there were collectors, but kids even now have a collector's mindset. But when back then, we would read the comic books, check them out. But this is the book. This is really the one. I love this book. And I just reread it, and it's so stupid. But it's still entertaining, and it's still fun, and it's still cool to see these heroes come up. And the heroes are just the worst, because they're created by 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds. And, of course, Harlan Ellison sent in a thing. I thought that was kind of funny. But, yeah, they're like, knee-deep, maybe, for how much thought went into this. I remember I wrote up a submission, as a matter of fact, for a character called the Baseball Kid. He had an energy bat, he had grenade baseballs that he could throw at people that would be like ice power or bomb power and all that stupid stuff like that. They never used it, and I can't blame them. It was lame. I even I traced a guy off the Topps book, the card collector book, and then I drew all the stuff all over him to make the character. It was so lame. It really was. But it was fun, and that was one of the great things about pre-Crisis. By that I mean Crisis on Infinite Earths. It was a pre-Crisis book, so there wasn't continuity. It was just a comic book for comic book's sake. It was fun, and yes, these characters, the kids, Vicky Grant and what was the kid's name? There was a boy. Oh my gosh! Shoot, this is gonna kill me here. It was Vicky Grant and. Not Rob. Robbie was the first one in the Chris King. That's it. Chris King. Anyway, it was Vicky Grant, Chris King. They had the dials, and they dialed HERO to become superheroes, and then OREH to get back if they finished whatever mission they were on before an hour was up, because the hero only lasted an hour, and then they couldn't use the dial again for a whole hour after that. So, like I keep saying, it was just a ton of fun. It's a silly, stupid comic book, but this is what got me into collecting monthly titles. I wanted to get the next issue and had to get... And then, of course, if you read this, you go, well, gee, what happened from the other ones? I had Tales of the Green Lantern. He interacted with the other characters, so I wanted to see it. And then finally, while Dial H for Hero hooked me, it was Teen Titans that got me back onto the boat. And from then on, because that was the Teen Titans with Marv Wolfman and George Perez. The first issue I got was number 10, which is the second appearance of Deathstroke. And I never looked back, because that was just one badass issue. And I wanted to read more about Garfield Logan. Robin was in it, of course, and a really sexy superhero called Starfire. So, you know, we all have our humble beginnings, and this one was mine. And I recommend you read it if you haven't been reading along with the pages, and I know there's a few more left here, but if you haven't read it already, turn the sound off and read this over again, just to have fun with a pre-Crisis comic book in 1970s. You'll just get a kick out of the whole fact that, you know, some kids made some super. Now there were some adults also. Like I said, the villain right here that you see, his name's Silver Fog. They say Silver Fog was created by Harlan Ellison, 46-year-old, and he's from New York or so on. And Harlan Ellison, of course, is a very famous writer, and he wrote a whole bunch of stuff before this, and of course wrote a whole bunch of stuff after. So of course they were playing a little joke on the readers, and it was fun. I keep using that word fun. This is a fun book, but it was. And another thing that was just entertaining about it is, I wish I included it here, is if you can find them, it's got the hostess ads, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, thank you if you've made it this far. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. I appreciate that. Please subscribe and share and like and do all that. And don't forget to find another small tuber like myself, and hopefully like yourself. Well, and subscribe to them also. Let's support this small tuber community. And thank you very much for watching.